presentation. A lot of you have stayed, so I'm presuming we're going to get some really heavy questions. Before we do that, I want to invite... First person I want to invite up is my brother from another mother. The guy, if I was coming back in you know, if there's reincarnation and I come back as an Indian, I want to be this guy, Sukhraj Singh. Come on up. No problem. So, unfortunately for you, I've been given quite a long dossier on your career. Apparently you were a professional skateboarder? No. Okay. What you were is is a fashion graduate from NFIT in 2003. You've dedicated, and I think that's clear to everybody, all of 19 years to your career in denim, where sustainability has been the key expression of his professional work, and I'm sure you've all seen what he's been doing with the denim school outside here. We'll talk about that in a minute. You started your career in Arvind, then you were at LNG, and you spent 7 years at Denim Mills before getting into retail. I love retail. He founded the 9-ounce denim studio in 2014 and curated, you know, dyslexic, it's not always easy, and curated his signature denim design masterclass workshop as a strong initiative towards bridging the gap between design academics and India's vast denim industry, and we've been talking a lot around that over the last couple of days. The thing that impresses me the most, not only just because it's you and just how I think passionate you are, right? You really are like my brother.
I think you can get on with the talk.
No, I've got 2 more pages on you. It's really what you've done with the Denim School and your dedication to young people and the education that you're doing and giving back. Yeah, I think it's very much about purpose for you, and I just love that you're here with us today. Next up, we've got somebody I've known for a very long time. She will not allow me to tell you how long we've known each other, but I would say our first communication was by fax. So, Aticka, if you could join us. So Atticka's a really, really interesting lady, and you know, if Sukhraj is my brother from another mother, I think you're my sister from another mother, and this is a family presentation that we're doing here. You're a partner and principal sustainability architect, which we're going to talk about what that really means soon. Your company's called Circular Fashion PVT. You're the founder of Green Commerce. You consult on sourcing, and particularly your tremendous connection with Sweden. And when I was living in Sweden as a buyer, that's where we first met, actually. You have over 20 years in strategic business development in India and Europe. This is your life. You have an in-depth understanding of complex business issues, policy and sustainability, international business and strategy experience. Wow, it goes on.
Stop.
No, just a little bit more, because I like embarrassing you. You really are a champion of sustainable global supply chain transformations, along with a lot of other things I know that you've been working on. There is a little bit more. I didn't write it. And you know, if I look at some of the companies you've been working with in your history, just to give a little bit of context to this, IKEA, Saab, United Colors of Benetton, all of these you've made tremendous impact on, and quite a lot of that around sustainability as well. Yeah, I'm really impressed by what you do. And Aticka is part of the brand we were talking about earlier, and you can tell by the green pocket that we have here. Okay, I can get rid of those. And then lastly, my son into the family, and I'm not sure I should do that because that would mean somehow we've created something, but I think you've created this guy. The last guest we're going to bring up is one of the students from India. Ujjwal, come on up. And you I'm not going to say anything about, apart from how impressed I am in the work that you've been doing in your short career. Okay, so that's our panel, my family. And let's get into some of the questions. So, Sukhraj, you've set up this Indian School of Responsible Design in 2020. 2020, that's right in the middle of COVID. Can you briefly, I don't think briefly is your skill, but can you briefly tell us what you teach and how the progress has been so far?
Thank you, David, for such a lovely intro. I think, I don't know, you must have a good spy network as well to get those details, which are not there in my biodata. But I think I would connect everything behind Indenium to a personal journey in the industry, where design education is what I went seeking first, and more than what I really needed, what I was hungry for, I kind of confronted what was becoming a staple approach in education, what is expected out of a design student to produce, and trying to de-entangle myself from those constraints. I think I was lucky enough to find a mentor at Arvind Mills in Vipul Mahadevia, who gave me a platform and said, we would love to have something in design that we engage with some young person. So I think I was very lucky for that, and that started the career at Arvind, which is an institution in itself. I actually usually say, David, that I did my master's in denim at Arvind, because it's an organization which gives you a lot of learning possibilities. And post that, LNJ Denim was being, the startup, it was being launched, is when we joined that team again. And yes, I did a little bit on the branding and the starting years, but those were why I'm mentioning these is that these are great organizations, and you have everything as a good structure in place to support creative idea. But post that, when I actually started, I wanted some retail exposure, and jumped into the market and started freelancing with brands, is where I confronted the reality. Also as heading design for an e-commerce venture when the e-com was booming, working with 25, 30 odd factories, and then reality hit me. It was really shocking to see the conditions that usually the fashion industry works with. What eventually gathered inside was questions, and lots of questions to which there were no answers, except one, that it sells. And I somehow found that as a very cold-hearted approach, David, to something that we spend our lives calling it a career, and we say we are so passionate about it, but what really the hell are we doing? So I personally felt that there was an urge to begin connecting these dots, because denim is also such a wide industry, the chain of operations are so vast that people are specialized within their domains and are not really connected to the entire chain. And I felt that I needed to write a curriculum, so I wrote that, and then there was a denim program ready. And then came the second wave of reality check, when you reach out to existing design schools saying, let's add a denim course, because we're the second largest denim manufacturing country on the planet. So let's add this into the existing fashion and textile programs as an elective. But I was again really turned down on that, because I think they have set their languages and their approaches towards siding with the industry, speaking that language. So we do have a lot of bitter truths to actually confront, and we're open to being hated for that, but that's all right. We've just got to do what it takes. If you felt it within you, it won't let you sleep. Somebody at one of the design schools called this curriculum, which is hardcore built on sustainable approach, saying that you're as if trying to start the satyagraha in 21st century, mocking it. But I think that was the final nail of inspiration, that really, even if it let me down, but it gave me the courage to let's just go on with it. I was supported by my mentors, Vipul Mahadevia, Rajesh Narkar is right here as well, right? And and the pandemic kind of came as a blessing in disguise, said that, okay, you don't need a building as such, everybody's going online, so let's just go online with the school. And during the lockdown, it was really difficult, it was very challenging. I was in fact going to launch a brand, and the lockdown happened, so the entire strategy was just rushed under the carpet. And having been isolated in a city I felt that, nature, as everybody was rejoicing, the birds coming back and the cows and dogs on the streets, and there was no traffic, people could finally breathe. And we thought that the change is now set to happen. And this was the rightest time, David, that the school must have come out. So we did. We started with a very humble small batch of 7 students. 2 of them were hit directly by the pandemic, so couldn't carry on, but we have 5 responsible designers to begin this journey with. Ujjwal is from the second batch. That came with even harsher, a second wave, when it was, we were all even more scared, even more restricted, even more cautious about where we could probably be breathing our last. But I think in that time as well, I really cherish these first 2 batches, because if they made up their minds to study responsible design, it meant that they've had their calling. So it was very easy to have a second batch as well, identified with their clear vision. What we do at the school, I'll come to the point now, and I'll be faster now here, that we look at 3 phases of an individual's development. The first and foremost, the word responsible design, could be eventually misunderstood in the future, just as sustainability is. It's a word that's been abused now, almost has no meaning, right? And such an incomplete picture we are being painted and shown everywhere we go, and that there's a term called greenwashing that has emerged out of that. In the span of 2 years, we thought we were getting our senses back, but we are getting back to losing our senses, and that's what we were talking about just a while back. So we look at 3 important interventions in a design individual. The first and foremost is you've got to become a better person. You've got to become sensitive enough that you genuinely care for people, the climate, the environment, and we do that through a lot of wellness modules. We introduce a little bit of spirituality. We're looking at the heritage of the nation. We're looking at the Vedic knowledge that we have, enormous universe of information, right? Just that the Wikipedia version of it is not that easily accessible. But we've got to tap into that, and I think we have all the answers of what truly is sustainable. What is the community way of building, nourishing, craft, means of life? I mean, we are all connected to something so important, that the most 3 important needs of humankind, other than food and shelter. And food is now connected to the way we farm our fibers and dyes. So it's on the plate, it's in your belly, it's in your mind, it's in your DNA now. So you better be scared, because being unaware about it isn't working. So we sensitize the group of learners first. We don't call them students, they're learning teams, they're entrepreneurs who will start their brands very soon, immediately after a year. And after they've been sensitized, we expose them to product development through both sides of handmade and industry, so that they can take an informed decision that, where could they intervene and come up with some problem-solving approach through their products. And the third aspect is where we are again blessed to have people like Rajesh Narkar and many other friends from the industry who help provide inputs on, okay, you've done a great job, you've made a fantastic product, but you're paralyzed if you don't know how to sell it. So the third phase of the course program, it focuses on enabling these people with their go-to-market strategy, with very precious inputs on how to build their entire supply chain, which is again coming through the school system of community building, and we have tie-ups with the artisanal studios as well as industry. So David, through these phases, we go through this 1 year at rocket speed, and eventually, hoping to have more people like Ujjwal. We've had some of the brands that I can talk about. Abha from Batch 1 has launched Rome, which is an intimate lingerie label for women. So we're not just a denim school, we're actually a thorough textile and apparel design brand building school. And I think denim is an inspiration. Being the most extensive in processes, being the most involving and inclusive in terms of people at various stages of making, and the most loved product on the planet, at the same time, the most destructive from the way everybody's trying to capitalize on it. So I think we look at the naked truth staring at us, we acknowledge it, and then we see what we can do about it. That's all.
Fantastic. Really good answer. And I love that you were mentioning mentors, because I think mentors are so important. And it's something, anybody can become a mentor, right? It's a very easy step to take to start affecting somebody's development and taking interest in young people. So I love you do that. There are only, as I'm aware, 4 places in the world where denim education exists today. There's what you're doing here, there's what I'm doing in Hong Kong. I started what I'm doing in Hong Kong. I convinced the Hong Kong Design Institute it was quite easy because they're a vocational university. And I said, in Greater Bay Area, so southern China and Hong Kong, there are 250,000 people employed in the denim industry in one way or another, and there's no education program. Where do we get the next generation of people coming through? I think the situation is exactly the same here in India. So
Yeah,
what you're doing, I think, is really, really valuable. I am very jealous of Ujjwal because he got to study with you. And I'm really interested to know why you decided to study denim, because I don't think it was your first choice, right? And indigo. And what's that experience been like for you going through this?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, David, for inviting me. And so I have completed my undergraduation in business management and entrepreneurship. And while studying that, there was this term which always popped up, like social entrepreneurship and sustainability. And then the COVID happened, and I was back in my town. I am from Ichalkaranji. It's a textile industrial town. And when I researched and dived more into see what is sustainability, I saw brands talking about sustainability. I got to know I'm living in a town where it's completely opposite. And I am, even my family business is into textiles. So I was more touched, and then I realized I don't want to do MBA, I don't want to do anything in any masters. Then I found Indian School of Responsible Design on Instagram, and it's a great, Instagram was great. It helped me find Indian School of Responsible Design, and yeah, so denim and indigo, as Sukhraj said, I am exploring all kind of textiles, but they are the inspirations. And what I have learned and my experience, what have been is problem solving should be at the core of any product development. And also knowing your materials as a product designer, you should know where the materials are coming from. I'm so glad that I talk about soil. I talk about where the cotton is coming from. Right now, what I'm wearing, I know where this cotton has come from, where it's grown, who has woven it. So that's what 2 things which I feel: transparency and accountability. These 2 are the ideologies which got embedded in my thought process, and this is what I've learned through Indanium. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I just think it's so impressive that you and your generation start to get involved in this. Okay, let's move to Aticka. You've been waiting patiently here. You recently joined the Unbrand, and then you brought me around. And I want to understand kind of a little bit about you. You have a really, really long and deep and interesting history around sustainability. So can you tell us a little bit about your history and about the Unbrand as well, please?
Yeah, thank you so much, David, and for that really impressive introduction. I must say that I'm really humbled to be sitting amongst experts here in the denim business. I also, actually, the shout out is to our team, Shivani, Swara, Harikrishan, Vartika, Anupam, Tara, Richa, Vani, Nimisha. They are the ones who actually made what it is today, under the very able leadership of Juno, who's the idea behind this and has kind of brought it this far. I'm actually the most boring person in this team because my job is to bring some action to sustainability. Like you said, it's a word that's just being used loosely. I work with how to make a supply chain carbon neutral, how to make a supply chain water neutral. I work with how life cycle analysis of products or how you extend life cycles on products. My background, I came freshly minted from a fashion institute in the US. I started the retail brand Benetton in India, started their first few stores, finished that, went back to study again, then got into a sourcing setup where David and me worked together. It was a Scandinavian company. We set up their sourcing for the subcontinent. I ran that operation. They got bought over by a larger firm. I started up their operations for the whole of Asia. Moved from there to be the global head for IKEA in the textile business. And those years, my first real understanding of sustainability was when I did a little bit of a stint with Amnesty International and understood that there's so many challenges in this business, and the challenges are not just limited to the product and how do you sell it and how do you produce it and you get it on time and you get it at the right price and you get it to the right customer. It's way beyond that. It's actually about how labor is treated. It's about how product is treated. It's how much resource we use to actually make a product. It's so interesting that if you ask a person that doesn't come from this industry, do you know what goes into making a product? They just think thread goes into a machine, it comes out and it's out in the store. But there's really so much that goes behind it. So that actually started me, and I then moved to IKEA, which is a company with really deep pockets, and they have the ambition to make things happen. We started what is today famously called the Better Cotton Initiative. At IKEA, our ambition was to go organic, but we realized that organic would be a very far cry. We wanted to put transparency, so we started BCI, which is now a pretty famous brand. And that was like my first time understanding how important resource use is in this business. From IKEA, I spent 6 years, 30 buying markets, 45 retail markets, traveled everywhere, saw how business is done and how it could be done, and the level of damage. So I'm part of the sinners in this industry. I then started a consulting firm where we started to work, where sustainability has been the DNA of the organization. As David mentioned, it's called Green Karma because that's what we're collecting. I, of course, first started a sourcing organization because that's what I really knew how to do. And we decided to only do recycle, reuse, or we will only do projects where we have women empowerment. We call that sustainability within our business as well. So today, and we started that business, we very early on also launched a brand and understood that it's not really, sustainability is still fashion. It's not really what the customer understands, the education of the customer is as important. But we stuck with it, and we stick with it till date. So we never became, we almost became a not-for-profit because we were just about doing enough business to pay our bills. But now, after the pandemic, we can see a huge interest. And now we are actually going out into the market with our own brand. So a lot of brands are buying us and saying Green Karmas for their brand. Because we now have kind of, at least in Scandinavia, the kind of reputation of being somebody that sticks with sustainability. In my consulting firm, we work with different projects that, like I said, life cycle analysis. So we do the more technical part of sustainability. And that's actually what brought me to UNN. Because if you look at my fashion background and you look at sustainability and you look at UNN, it kind of is like a model that anybody with my background would be honored to be part of, and I am honored to be part of it. So I'll say more about UNN, a minute more. So we take products that have lived in somebody's wardrobe.
Maybe I can ask you this in a different way.
Sure.
We're actually running out of time.
Okay.
We've done really good answers, but they're a little bit long from all of us. So I'm going to ask one last question, and you can include the UNN part in there. What are the sustainability benefits of buying an upcycled denim product versus buying something new? With all your experience and with setting up UNN, I think you can answer this for us.
So today's day, fast fashion is the world, because that's, today I wear unjacket, but that's the only sustainable product I have. Everything else is fast fashion. Fast fashion is struggling because there is multiple challenges. There's a problem of labor problems today. There are sweatshops. There are we talked about greenwashing. There is problems in production because there is problems with raw materials. There are transparency issues. There are problems like we've seen in Bangladesh with the Rana Plaza. So there's a lot of trouble on the production front as well. Then there is, the sourcing of raw material is a huge challenge. It's coming from different markets, being produced in different markets, being shipped to different markets. It's also a logistic nightmare. And all of this is creating, and while we're doing all of this, consumerism is going through the roof. The richest person in Japan today owns Uniqlo. The richest person in France today owns Louis Vuitton. These are all fashion brands. So consumerism is literally through the roof. And that's not going to stop. We all buy more than we need. And that's kind of, we women get blamed for it, but I think that's the world today. So, and also then, there is, en masse production. There are large brands that are overproducing, over-distributing, and we are over-consuming. In addition to that, there is also challenges of, every company today is challenged by making the product post-COVID, particularly, has to make sure that their product has a long life cycle, longer life cycle than it was before. Because the customer has become more discerning, the customer is willing to pay a little bit more but wants to have a longer usage and multiple usages of the same product. Also, technology has been disruptive. We used to have great production setups, now we have 3D. We used to go into a brick and mortar store to buy, today everything is online. And if you take all those challenges and you think about upcycling, I'm not going to take too much time, but every one of you that knows upcycling knows why and knows why it covers pretty much every single one of this challenge. It's also interesting, we talked about this morning, that Volvo, Volkswagen, Toyota, they all produced cars. But when it needed to be disrupted, Tesla had to come in. And that's what we are. We're actually challenging the businesses that are in fast fashion, that are looking at denim as just, a fashion product. We're looking at denim as a life cycle product. So.
Fantastic. Well, that's actually the last question we can deal with right now. One thing I would say, we had the students from the school create some upcycling products, and they're there to be seen on the stand just outside as you go out. I think I do want to open up just for one or two, if Sandeep doesn't kill me in the process. I just want to take one or two questions from the audience while we've got this really good, talented panel here. So, are there any questions you'd like to ask us? Again, like yesterday, tough ones to them, easy ones to me. Any questions? Okay, well, that's good.
Thanks, Aticka. I just wanted to highlight one thing so that leave everybody with a deep afterthought. Realize this situation. You live in the largest manufacturing country on the planet. What does it translate to? That means our resources get used. So how we make, we are polluting or conserving. That's a clear choice. Our people are at stake. People are working in those factories which are below healthy working conditions, right? And the product that eventually gets sold is never talking about, as Aticka said, the behind the scenes, right? Third, products that we are exporting, once they are worn, come back to our land. And those that don't get sold, come back to our land. So you understand the weight of garbage that's building up here, and if you don't do something about it, it's going to start flowing in through the windows. So I think that's one thing I would like everybody to ponder over and see where you fit in to contribute, because I think there will be a lot of people here that this whole event is about trying to do something to make a difference and be reasonable while we chase our nice looking Excel sheets. Right? Reality should not be forgotten, is what we are trying to stress about. And I will quickly share the Bangladesh student we have, which will, if you can help me with the jacket. Here is a real life situation in Bangladesh. We know it's at the forefront of climate change, one of the first countries which will go underwater if the sea rises. Another part of the reality alongside the Rana Plaza tragedy is the student is deeply moved by that, and he decided to come to the school, also advised by David, that go study at Indenium. And he's created this product. Now, this is the perfect example of what is going on with us in India. There is an oversupply of these garments. These he's bought just off the street at throwaway prices. The art that you see is a rich cultural craft of the region. Some artists who used to paint this on rickshaws, right? And we have that in our country as well. Very vibrant art that we see on public transport and on buildings around us. This art is dying because there's no more e-rickshaws that people are looking for. So here is an excess of something that's causing a problem, and here is something that's disappearing, which is also a problem, because the next 2 generations ahead will have no idea about their history and where they came from. They'll have to search it on Wikipedia. You know, so this garment that he's developed, I think is a very potential product that merges something as a problem solving from what the problem is that we're surrounded by. So if anybody has any questions regarding how things that you can contribute with is I think most welcome, using the time that we have.
And we have no time. So they'll be able to come and see you.
Yeah, forget the talk. We have no time to respond. It was yesterday we needed it, right?
Exactly. Thank you so much, guys. This was a really interesting panel. A lot of passion in there from my family, which I really appreciate. And Sandy, I think that wraps us up.
Thank you so much, David and Aticka and Sukhraj. Wonderful panel, and we all enjoyed it. And since we are running out of time, I think I will not press you for more things to be said.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it.